Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The commemorative service today is a solemn and respectful ceremony, and the usual courtesies are expected. During the service, I will ask you at times to stand. If you're unable to do so, please remain seated. The occasions when you'll be asked to stand include the raising of the national flags, the ode, the last post, 1 minute silence, rouse, and the national anthems. It will be appropriate on these same occasions for gentlemen not in uniform but wearing hats to remove their headdress. Please respect our national flag and the other national flags flying here today. After the commemorative service is concluded, please remain in your places until the departure of the official party. At this time, you'll be advised of the arrangements for viewing the memorial and the floral tributes, and the procedure for departing the Australian Corp memorial site in a safe and timely manner. Throughout the service, we ask you to remain in place and to be silent and reflect on what occurred here on the Western Front 100 years ago. Thank you.
Thomas Clifford McGuinness, 23rd Infantry Battalion, killed in action 22nd July 1918, age 22.
Mark Smoothy, 2nd Pioneer Battalion, killed in action 13th of June 1918, age 26.
William Lawrence O'Donnell, 32nd Infantry Battalion, died of wounds 31st of May 1918, age 26.
James Henry Crowe, 34th Infantry Battalion, killed in action 22nd of August 1918, age 20.
Charles John Taylor, 16th Infantry Battalion, died of wounds 4th of July 1918, age 23.
Robert Lewis, 46th Infantry Battalion, killed in action 4th of July 1918, age 31.
Robert MacArthur, 32nd Infantry Battalion, died of wounds 28th of May 1918, age 30.
Edward Herbert Breton, 43rd Infantry Battalion, died of wounds 5th of July 1918, age 22.
Jack Stewart Sidney McCain, 43rd Infantry Battalion, killed in action 4th of July 1918, age 22.
Carl Sainsbury Rockstone, 21st Infantry Battalion, died of wounds 6th of July 1918, age 21.
John Donald Woodfield, 24th Infantry Battalion, died of wounds 7th of July 1918, age 34.
James Sidney Parsons, 40th Infantry Battalion, killed in action 11th of August 1918, age 24.
Stanley Edward Clasm, 48th Infantry Battalion, died of wounds 12th of July 1918, age 19.
Marcus Strong Sargent, 32nd Infantry Battalion, died of wounds 26th of May 1918, age 31.
Frank Dean Stilwell, 43rd Infantry Battalion, killed in action 1st of September 1918, age 22.
Cyril Haywood, 1st Pioneer Battalion, killed in action 29th of August 1918, age 24.
Ralph Arnold Griffiths, 40th Infantry Battalion, killed in action 27th of July 1918, age 20.
Archibald William Cameron, 32nd Infantry Battalion, killed in action 20th of June 1918, age 22.
Arthur Robinson Eastburn, 16th Infantry Battalion, killed in action 24th of June 1918, age 24.
Charles Thomas Black, 32nd Infantry Battalion, killed in action 24th of June 1918, age 34.
David Ernest Wolfe, 13th Infantry Battalion, killed in action 4th of July 1918, age 22.
Neville Dudley Keith, 58 Infantry Battalion, killed in action 28th of April 1918, age 21.
David Emmett Coyne, 31st Infantry Battalion, died of wounds 15th of May 1918, age 22.
Norman Stanley Bathurst Fairburn, 13th Infantry Battalion, killed in action 4th of July 1918, age 27.
Frederick Alfred Hastings, 28th Infantry Battalion, killed in action 10th of June 1918, age 37.
Harold Sidney Holloway, 13th Field Company Engineers, killed in action 11th of July 1918, age 34.
Donald Ernest Ewers, 44th Infantry Battalion, died of wounds 4th of April 1918, age 20.
Victor Clarence Dyer, 56th Infantry Battalion, died of wounds 7th of July 1918, age 25.
Herbert Newton, 44th Infantry Battalion, killed in action 5th of April 1918, age 30.
Robert Ernest George Crossman, 50th Infantry Battalion, killed in action 7th of July 1918, age 21.
Robert Oliver Bounds, 4th Pioneer Battalion, killed in action 5th of July 1918, age 22.
George Selway, 48th Infantry Battalion, died of wounds 25th of June 1918, age 21.
Robert Leslie Moxon, 10th Field Artillery Brigade, died of wounds 4th of July 1918, age 26.
John Howard Cherry, 59th Infantry Battalion, killed in action 4th of July 1918, age 22.
Thomas Baxter, 13th Infantry Battalion, killed in action, 11th of August 1918, age 25.
Charles Edwin Mould, 32nd Infantry Battalion, killed in action, 20th of June 1918, age 27.
Horace Edgar Blee, 16th Infantry Battalion, died of wounds, 4th of July 1918, age 26.
Henry Browning, 41st Infantry Battalion, killed in action, 24th of April 1918, age 25.
Harold Whiteman, 1st Pioneer Battalion, died of wounds, 25th of August 1918, age 33.
Percy Allen Ratcliffe, 12th Infantry Battalion, died of wounds, 11th August 1918, age 25.
Joseph Thompson Risk, 49th Infantry Battalion, killed in action, 14th of August 1918, age 31.
Leslie Victor O'Brien, 43rd Infantry Battalion, killed in action, 4th of July 1918, age 25.
Leslie Power, 12th Field Ambulance, killed in action, 9th of August 1918, age 24.
James Joseph Lynch, 44th Infantry Battalion, killed in action, 4th of July 1918, age 23.
In December 1918, the Melbourne Advocate republished a letter which had been written by a French soldier in April on the eve of his death. Gathering his thoughts the night before he led his men into battle, Paul Tisserand wrote these words to his 4-year-old daughter. Darling, when you receive this letter, you will be unable to read it, but I write that you may have a living memento of a father of whom you have known so little. You will keep this letter, I am sure, as a sacred relic. Darling little Genevieve, whom I cannot think of without tears in my eyes, whom little as you were, your mother taught to say a prayer for me, whom I've left on the day of mobilisation, so small that I scarcely dared to kiss you for fear of waking you, and whom I have seldom seen since that day, and not without finding you prettier and bigger and beloved by all. For whom I dreamt of such a bright future, it is necessary for me to leave you without being able to see my dream's fulfilment. You will believe me and understand how horribly I suffer at leaving you without being able to see you again, and how much courage is needed in such circumstances as to give up one's life. I hope you'll be worthy of your parents, that you will love your mother, and you will work and help her in her trials. Be proud of your name, respect yourself, and be good of heart and kind. Tisserand was one of countless fathers who fought in the war and never returned home. His grief at the thought he might never see his child again remains heartbreaking a century later. Genevieve was one of too many children of many nations whose fathers were lost somewhere on the Western Front.
The tradition of flying a flag at half-mast is a sign of mourning and respect. Here at the Australian Corp Memorial, the national flags of Australia and our allies are proudly flown each day. Here today, to further acknowledge the bond between Australia, the French Republic, Canada, United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America, the national flags of all these nations will be raised first and then lowered together to the half-mast position before the commencement of the commemorative service. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand.
Catapult Party, General Salute, present! Up! Catapult Party, shoulder, arms.
Please be seated.
Catapult Party, General Salute, present, arms.
Flag Party, quick, march.
Our commemorative service will start shortly. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the commemorative service at the Australian Corp Memorial at Le Hamel in the Somme Valley in northern France. Good evening also to the many Australians who may be watching this broadcast back home in Australia and elsewhere. We wish you were here with us among the quiet ghosts on the Western Front to express our eternal gratitude for their sacrifice. I am Major General Mark Kelly, the Repatriation Commissioner at the Australian Department of Veterans Affairs, and it is my great privilege to be your Master of Ceremonies for this morning's service to mark the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Hamel. I will now broadly acknowledge our official guests. Their Excellencies, General the Honourable Sir Peter Cosgrove, AKMC retired, the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, and Lady Cosgrove. Madame Geneviève Darrieussecq, the Secretary of State to the French Minister for the Armed Forces. The Honourable Darren Chester MP, the Australian Minister for Veterans Affairs, Minister for Defence Personnel, and the Minister assisting the Prime Minister for the Centenary of Anzac. Ambassadors and members of the Diplomatic Corps. The Honourable Warren Snowden MP, representing the Leader of the Federal Opposition. Veterans, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. A special mention also for all our young men and women of the Australian Defence Force, those serving in the Royal Australian Navy, the Australian Army, and the Royal Australian Air Force, the Australian custodians of the Anzac tradition. Wherever you are serving, we await your safe return. Here, in this very place in the Somme Valley, where 100 years ago today, Australian soldiers fought and died alongside their allies, we gather to remember those whose courage, endeavour and sacrifice during the final campaigns on the Western Front in 1918 enhanced the Anzac legend. Our service today begins with the mounting of the catapult party.
Catapult party, quick, march! Catapult party, present! Catapult party, reverse! Catapult party, slow! Catapult party, rest on!
I now invite His Excellency Mr. Brendan Byrne, the Australian Ambassador to the French Republic, to welcome you here.
Bonjour. Je vous souhaite la bienvenue ici, au mémorial du corps d'armée australien à Le Hamel. This morning I welcome you to the Australian Corp Memorial, where 100 years ago, Allied forces on the Western Front launched a combined arms battle against the Germans south of the River Somme, known as the Battle of Hamel. It was considered a turning point of the First World War, halting the German advance to Amiens. Cette bataille de Le Hamel a été un moment significatif de la Première Guerre mondiale. Il s'agit de la première fois où une combinaison d'artillerie, de blindés, d'avions militaires et d'infanterie a été utilisée conjointement. The news of the Hamel victory came while the Supreme War Council was meeting. This victory was extremely well received, as the Allies had not known success for some time. Other nations decided to send a telegraph to pass on their congratulations to the Australian troops, but not Georges Clemenceau, the French Prime Minister. He declared he would personally deliver his message to the troops on the front line of 7 July. La nouvelle de la victoire à Le Hamel a vite été connue par les Alliés qui ont envoyé des télégrammes de félicitations, tous sauf Georges Clemenceau, qui est venu en personne le 7 juillet. À l'arrivée des troupes australiennes en France, le peuple français attendait beaucoup de vous. Nous savions que vous alliez mener une véritable bataille, mais nous ignorions que dès la première heure, l'Europe entière serait impressionnée. Demain, je dirai à mes compatriotes, j'ai vu les Australiens, je les ai regardés dans les yeux. Je sais que ces hommes combattront à nos côtés jusqu'à ce que la valeur que nous défendons tous l'emporte pour nous et nos enfants. When the Australians came to France, the French people expected a great deal of you. We knew that you would fight a real fight, but we did not know that from the very beginning you would astonish the whole continent. I shall go back tomorrow and say to my countrymen, I have seen the Australians. I have looked in their faces. I know that these men will fight alongside of us again until the cause for which we are all fighting is safe for us and for our children. Today, we all stand here together with the flags of our 5 allied nations on this memorial to remember the sacrifice of those who served on the Western Front. In particular, here at Le Hamel, on this 4th of July, we remember 100 years of mateship with the United States of America. 100 years ago on this day, Australians and Americans fought together, and our ties have remained strong since that day. Les drapeaux des 5 alliés sont ici, levés sur le mémorial, symbole d'amitié et de sacrifice partagé. On se souvient en particulier, en ce jour de 4 juillet, de l'amitié entre l'Australie et les États-Unis, 100 années d'amitié qui ont commencé ici, en ce lieu, il y a 100 ans, jour pour jour. I would now like to acknowledge and welcome our official guests. Their Excellencies, General the Honourable Sir Peter Cosgrove, the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, and Lady Cosgrove. Secretary of State under the Minister of Armed Forces, Madame Geneviève Darrieussecq, the Honourable Darren Chester, MP, the Australian Minister for Veterans Affairs, Minister for Defence Personnel, and Minister assisting the Prime Minister for the Centenary of Anzac Australia. Ambassadors and members of the Diplomatic Corps, Mr Warren Snowden, representing the Leader of the Opposition, Préfet of the Somme, Philippe de Merster, Mr Jean-Claude Leclabar, MP from the Somme, Mr Laurent Saumon, President of the Departmental Council, Madame Madi Dorchy-Briand, representing the President of the Regional Council, General Thierry Coqueblin, Military Governor of Lille and the Northern Security Zone, Lieutenant General Rick Burr, Chief of Army, Australian Defence Force, Major General Charles Flynn, representing the United States Staff Headquarters, Major General Hayes, representing the Illinois National Guard, Major General Greg Mellick, Centenary of Anzac Planning Team, Defence Attachés from New Zealand, United Kingdom and Ireland, Monsieur Alain Guest, Mayor of Amiens Métropole, and Mayor of Le Hamel, M. Stéphane Chevin. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now invite Lieutenant General Rick Burr, AO DSC MVO, the Australian Chief of Army, to deliver a reflection.
Hubert Keith Locke, a farmer from South Australia's Mid-North region, was 23 years old when he enlisted in the 1st AIF in February of 1916. Initially a stretcher bearer with the 11th Field Ambulance, he served on the Western Front. Commissioned in 1917, he was with the 43rd Battalion during the Battle of Hamel. Lieutenant Locke survived the battle and the war, although he was severely wounded in action during September 1918. His service didn't end there. He re-enlisted in 1941 and served in Australia for 3 years during the Second World War. The following extract from a letter written by Locke, reflecting the idiom of the day and published in 1919, gives an insight into one soldier's experience of this iconic battle. It was a weird sensation, crawling out of the trenches and sneaking out into no man's land to lie up along the tape line. Occasionally Fritz would send up a very light and all would stand still. Ghostly forms on a ghostly job, with the expectancy of the rattle of a machine gun or the ping of a bullet. But fortune favoured us and all were finally lying in the clover or wheat crops, waiting for the momentous opening of the attack. Not a sound broke the stillness, and an awe seemed to be over the whole landscape, until at 2 minutes past 3 a.m, a few guns commenced a desultory bombardment, throwing some smoke shells well back. At 10 minutes past 3, the barrage opened, and the Americans saw fireworks such as they had not imagined before. The whole sky was a blaze of light as the gunners pumped it into them. As soon as the barrage lifted, the whole line of attacking troops rose and started on their job. No fierce rushing, but just a steady walk, while here and there, groups of diggers hesitated and lit their cigarettes. Soon, the counter-barrage came down, and we were glad to be moving on from the old trench system, where the shells were falling fast and thick. Many among the troops too, but one does not seem to mind them much when on the move and in the excitement of battle. The tanks, which had come up and started from their places of concealment, now could be heard distinctly as they raced up their clumsy way through our lines and, heedless of obstruction or resistance, made straight for the enemy trenches, their machine guns playing a happy tattoo as they sought out the Germans and frightened them from their dugouts. All the time, the weight of the tanks as they clambered along squashed in machine guns and trench mortar emplacements. Then on they went, leaving the troops to deal with what opposition remained or positions still untouched. On into the village, now a burning mass of debris lit up by the red glare and forming a wonderful picture with daylight just breaking and revealing the shells bursting, showering red brick dust high into the air, while further on to the south and east of Hamel, the attacking troops were clearing up the high ground and making good their positions. The 3rd Squadron of the Australian Flying Corps had not been inactive, but had bombed the rear German positions, machine-gunned the trenches, kept the infantry supplied with ammunition by parachute, and reported the progress of the battle to headquarters. Many prisoners and munitions were captured, and all the objectives were attained at a very small loss, thus fitly celebrating the glorious 4th and preparing the line for the big counter-offensive of August 8.
Thank you, Chief of Army. Our first commemorative address this morning will be delivered by His Excellency General the Honourable Sir Peter Cosgrove, AKMC retired, the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia.
Madame Genevieve de Rossac, Minister of State, attached to the Minister for the Armed Forces, other distinguished guests in particular today, I single out from all those mentioned earlier our Senior Representative from the United States, Major General Charles Flynn, representing the United States Staff Headquarters. I also single out families of the fallen, ladies and gentlemen. When the first artillery fire erupted, when smoke clouded the air and aircraft circled above, when the tanks rolled forth and the infantry advanced, this land shook. The sky was ablaze, the noise thunderous. This place was a cacophony of war and machinery and men. And now, standing here on this summer morning, the sights and sounds of fighting have long passed. We have to imagine what this scene must have been like. And as we imagine, we remember all those who served here in the only way we can, with respect and reverence. The young men who fought and died here at the Battle of Hamel remind us of the human cost of war. From their sacrifice, an immutable bond between the people of Australia and the people of France has grown. At this memorial with the rising sun, flanked by the words of the French Prime Minister, Georges Clemenceau, we commemorate this bond, the likes of which can only exist between those who have laid bare their all for each other. Together, on this day, a century hence, our respect and admiration for each other continues to rebound and grow. It was here that the great Australian General, Sir John Monash, drew upon the lessons of the past and helped reimagine the tactics of traditional trench warfare. This was a battle of meticulous preparation, exacting strategy, and well-laid plans executed to the finest detail. With a combination of infantry, armour, aircraft and artillery from the British and the French and the Americans fighting on their National Day beside us for the first time in history, Monash conducted an orchestrated assault. Each instrument of force performed with precision. It marked the high point of tactics the British Expeditionary Force had learned and developed over the past 3 years of bloody fighting on the Western Front. Monash, the maestro, planned the attack to last 90 minutes. It took 93. We won't hold that against him. When it was over, 1,200 diggers and some 180 Americans were either dead, wounded or missing. German casualties amounted to over 2,000, many taken as prisoners of war. Hamel was liberated. A stunning, quick and decisive victory had been achieved in a war previously defined by incremental advances. And the bend in the Australian line astride the Somme River was straightened and positions shored up for future battles. For Monash and his men, Hamel was a feat of planning and will. The power and potential of an integrated approach to warfare had been demonstrated dramatically. The blunting of the German Spring Offensive and a series of masterful counterattacks that would eventually lead to Allied victory were soon to come. The Battle of Hamel, like so many across this vast stretch of countryside and villages on the Western Front, was a momentous battle, one of significant strategy and of sacrifice. Those who served and prevailed did so selflessly, seeking nothing in return except for the freedoms and peace they fought for, the very freedoms and peace we cherish to this day. In this now calm and quiet place, we are vigilant to their memory, lest we forget.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Please stand and join the Voices of Birrelly Choir and the Australian Army Band in singing the hymn, Amazing Grace. Please be seated. Our second commemorative address today will be delivered by Madame Geneviève Darrieussecq, the Secretary of State to the French Minister for the Armed Forces.
Monsieur le gouverneur général du Commonwealth d'Australie, Monsieur le ministre, Monsieur le préfet, Monsieur le député, Monsieur le président du conseil départemental, Monsieur le maire de Le Hamel, Mesdames et Messieurs les élus, Monsieur le président de la mission du Centenaire, mon général, Messieurs les officiers généraux, Messieurs les représentants du monde combattant, chers porte-drapeaux, Mesdames et Messieurs. Depuis cette crête, qui fut l'enjeu des affrontements du 4 juillet 1918, nous surplombons aujourd'hui ce qui a été, il y a 100 ans, un terrible champ de bataille. 100 années se sont écoulées. En contemplant ces beaux paysages de la Somme, il nous est difficile d'imaginer le tumulte de ce petit matin dans lequel près de 1000 soldats australiens firent le sacrifice ultime. Après Gallipoli, après Bullecourt, Messines, Ypres et Villers-Bretonneux, le Hamel occupe une place particulière dans l'histoire de nos deux nations. Celle d'une victoire qui bloque définitivement la route d'Amiens à l'avancée allemande, celle d'un prélude au jour de deuil de l'armée allemande et de l'offensive des 100 jours, celle d'un succès tactique majeur en combinant simultanément infanterie, artillerie, blindés et aviation, celle d'une des victoires les plus rapides de la Première Guerre mondiale. Aujourd'hui, Français et Australiens ensemble à nouveau, nous rendons hommage aux 295 000 soldats australiens qui ont combattu sur le front occidental. Nous ne les oublions pas. Nous n'oublierons jamais qu'ils étaient volontaires. L'Australie a ainsi envoyé près d'un dixième de sa population combattre en Europe. Quel courage, quelle bravoure, quelle détermination. Tant de jeunes gens partis à l'autre bout du monde sans garantie de retour. Tant de milliers de familles endeuillées, tant de semaines d'anxiété interminable à attendre la publication des listes des disparus en espérant ne pas y lire le nom d'un proche. C'est une nation tout entière qui a trempé son unité dans le feu de 14-18. Ensemble, nous honorons les 60 000 hommes qui sont tombés sous vos couleurs sur les différents champs de bataille. La France mesure l'ampleur de votre sacrifice. La France en est reconnaissante. Par ces batailles, l'Australie est entrée dans l'histoire mondiale. Depuis plusieurs mois, je rencontre avec un mélange d'émotion et de passion la mémoire de votre grande île. Cette mémoire, elle m'a saisie en plein cœur le 25 avril dernier, alors que débutait l'Anzac Day dans l'aurore de Villers-Bretonneux. L'inauguration du magnifique centre Sir John Monash, à quelques kilomètres d'ici, en est également une brillante illustration. Je remercie l'Australie pour la création sur notre sol de ce qui est aujourd'hui le plus court chemin entre nos deux pays. Nos gouvernements respectifs ont travaillé de concert durant toutes les commémorations du centenaire de la Grande Guerre. Je tiens au nom du gouvernement français à vous exprimer tous nos remerciements. Mesdames et messieurs, la relation franco-australienne, commencée dans les combats et les victoires de la Première Guerre mondiale, s'est approfondie par la suite. La France et l'Australie ont noué des liens indéfectibles. Ils se sont forgés sur les champs de bataille de la Grande Guerre, sur ceux de la Seconde Guerre mondiale, durant tous nos combats communs. En 2018, nous luttons encore, côte à côte, au Levant et contre le terrorisme. La France est attachée à notre partenariat stratégique d'exception. Cette relation, je l'ai vue forte, vigoureuse et vivante lors du déplacement officiel du président de la République, Emmanuel Macron, dans votre pays. Sachez, chers amis, que la France admire l'engagement des soldats australiens. Chers amis australiens, comme nous l'étions hier, comme nous le sommes aujourd'hui, nous serons ensemble au Forum de Paris que la France organisera le 11 novembre prochain pour construire l'avenir de la paix. En inscrivant nos pas dans ceux des combattants du 4 juillet 1918, c'est leur héritage que nous défendons. Nous y trouverons toujours des raisons d'espérer et de faire fructifier notre amitié. En un mot, au nom de la République française, merci. Vive l'amitié franco-australienne, vive la République et vive la France.
Thank you, Madame Dariussec. I now invite the Honourable Darren Chester MP, the Australian Minister for Veterans Affairs, to deliver his address.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, bonjour. Life is full of choices, and I thank you for choosing to be here today as we commemorate the service and the sacrifice of those who fought in the Battle of Hamel 100 years ago. By any measure, this is sacred ground for the people of France and the young Australians who travelled from our distant shore to defend freedom. But freedom came at an enormous cost. While we gather at this magnificent memorial in the beautiful countryside, we can hardly imagine the brutality of the battles, the fear, the chaos, and the horrendous loss of life which occurred here and across the Western Front. As French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe said at the opening of the Sir John Monash Centre just 2 months ago, for many young Australians, this earth was their final safe place. For many of them, this earth was the final confidant of a thought or a word intended for a loved one from the other side of the world. Loved ones who would only learn the sad news several months later. Ladies and gentlemen, the 93-minute Battle of Hamel, commanded by General Sir John Monash, was a turning point in the war, and it helped change the course of history. But to serve with such loyalty, courage and determination, the troops must have been filled with hope that their sacrifice would be worth it. Hope that the killing and maiming would stop. Hope that peace would eventually reign. But they could never have hoped, indeed, they could never have imagined how their service would shape our two nations. The bonds forged on this sacred ground have grown into cultural, social, and economic links that are made stronger by our shared history. So what does it mean for us today? As I said, life is full of choices. The best way to honour the fallen is found in the choices that we make today. We could choose to forget them. We could focus only on ourselves and our own problems. We could choose to ignore the past and consign their deeds to the dust of history. Or we can choose to honour and solemnly commemorate all of the fallen. We can choose to respect all those who serve in uniform today and strive to keep us safe in dangerous times. We can choose to show understanding and support for their families. And we can choose to learn from the battles and never forget the horrific lessons of war. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the choices you've made. Thank you for choosing to be here today to respect all those who served in the Great War. Carry the memory of this day with you forever, as you remember the fallen from the Battle of Hamel, lest we forget.
Thank you, Minister. I now invite Principal Chaplain Darren Yench, the Director General Chaplaincy of the Australian Army, to lead us in a prayer of remembrance and a prayer for peace.
As we pause in reflection, people of faith turn their thoughts to prayers. If it is your want, join me as I pray in my tradition, or, in silence, reflect in your own way. In this quiet and sombre place, we pause at this moment to reflect and to remember before you, eternal God, the tragedy of the battles that occurred around this sacred memorial. 100 years past, but always to remain poignant and fresh in our national memories. Australian troops with Allied friends were far from home, protecting the lives and liberties of people in peril. As we recall their legacy of devotion to duty and of sacrifice for the security and welfare of others, make us, we pray, a people zealous for peace. May we have the grace to seek a spirit of justice, generosity, and peacefulness for all people, thus reflecting your will in our world. Amen. A prayer for peace. God of the nations, you are the one who reminds us that the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. Have mercy on our broken and divided world. May we always be ambassadors of a lasting and just peace, that all people may learn to live together as members of one family of humanity. I pray this in the name of the one who died to bring peace, Jesus, the Prince of Peace. Amen.
Thank you, Padre. Wreaths will now be laid by official representatives. The first wreath will be laid by Their Excellencies, General the Honourable Sir Peter Cosgrove, AKMC retired, the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, and Lady Cosgrove, on behalf of the people of Australia. To acknowledge the bond between Australia and France, the next wreaths will be laid jointly by the Honourable Darren Chester MP, the Minister for Veterans Affairs, on behalf of the Australian Government, and Madame Geneviève Dariussec, the Secretary of State to the Minister for the Armed Forces, on behalf of the Government and the people of the French Republic. The next wreaths will be laid on behalf of Canada, the Federal Republic of Germany, and the Republic of India by Mr. John de Rossiers, Lieutenant Colonel Franco Lazaro, and Brigadier Sudhir Kumar Sharma. The next wreaths will be laid on behalf of the Republic of Ireland, New Zealand, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America by Mr. Peter O'Connor, Her Excellency Miss Jane Coombs, Colonel Chris Bourneman, and Colonel David Chapman. The next wreaths will be laid by the Honourable Warren Snowden MP on behalf of the Federal Opposition, Monsieur Laurent Simon, the President of the Conseil Départemental de la Somme, and His Excellency the Honourable Joe Hockey on behalf of 100 years of mateship. The next wreaths will be laid on behalf of Australian state governments from Queensland and South Australia by Ms Linda Appelt and the Honourable Terry Stevens, MLC. The next wreaths will be laid on behalf of the Australian Defence Force and the French Armed Forces by Lieutenant General Rick Burr, AO DSC MVO, and General de Division Thierry Coqueblanc. The next wreaths will be laid by the mayors of Le Hamel, Fouar, Villebretonneau and Péronne, by Monsieur Stéphane Chauvin, Monsieur Bernard Brocheux, Dr Patrick Simon, AO, and Madame Thérèse Desjeux. The next wreaths will be laid on behalf of the Commonwealth War Graves Commission and the Royal British Legion by Mr Christopher Farrell and Mr Rodney Bedford. The final wreaths will be laid on behalf of all those who served in the Battle of Hamel, from the 1st Australian Imperial Force, the British Army, and the 33rd US Infantry Division by Major General Greg Mellick, AO RFD SC, Colonel Sebastian Pollington, and Major General Richard J. Hayes Jr., the Adjutant General of the Illinois National Guard. It is now time to reflect and to silently remember all those who have served and died in war. Please stand for the ode, which will be followed by the last post, 1 minute's silence and rouse. The ode will be recited by Warrant Officer Grant McFarlane, OAM, the Regimental Sergeant Major of the Australian Army, and the acte de souvenir will be recited by the Mayor of Le Hamel, Monsieur Stéphane Chauvin.
Catapult party, a turn. Chap.
They went with song to battle, they were young, straight of limb, true of eyes, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end, against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Ils ne vieilliront pas, contrairement à nous qui aurons cette chance. Ils ne seront pas épuisés par l'âge, ni condamnés par les années. À la tombée de la nuit et au petit matin, nous nous souviendrons d'eux. Ne les oublions jamais.
Catapult party, present. Arms. Catapult party, shoulder, arms.
Please remain standing for the national anthems of France and Australia.
Catapult party, present. Arms.
Allons au front de l'armée.
Catapult party, shoulder, arms.
I now invite Principal Chaplain Yench to offer a final blessing.
Eternal One, as we depart this hallowed ground, this sacred space of remembrance of those who have given their lives for the sake of others, may we go forth as a people who embrace life, hope, and light, holding fast to all that is good and seeking such blessings in the lives of others. May we truly know your divine blessing on our journey through this life and beyond. Amen.
Please be seated. We began our service this morning with the mounting of the catapult party, and now the catapult party will be dismounted.
Catapult party in words. 10. Catapult party, quick, march.
The final part of our service this morning will be the public wreath laying. If you have registered to lay a wreath or a tribute, please make your way forward now. Could I ask everyone not laying a wreath to please remain in their places during this period, and for wreath layers to move to and from the memorial as described in your registration. I call first direct descendants of the First World War, followed by other government representatives not included in the official wreath laying, then regimental and unit ex-service organisations and associations, followed by school groups, and finally, members of the general public who registered. Wreaths will now be laid by the following people. Louise Coman, on behalf of the Gavin and Coman families. Mike and Jill Pearson, on behalf of Norman Edgley. Jocelyn Brown, on behalf of William Brown. Noel Mills, on behalf of Guildford Blanchard. Christopher Kelly, on behalf of John Horton. Robert and Louise Maynard, on behalf of the Maynard and Osborne families. Lexa Hopes and Judy Lynch, on behalf of James Lynch. Julia Harpham, on behalf of William, David and Gavin Ralston. Matt Noble, on behalf of the Concordia College, Adelaide. Melbourne Grammar School, on behalf of all those who served from Melbourne Grammar School. Peter Tilley, representing Edward Tilley, on behalf of W. Bull, G. Cobb, and J.C.D. Warren. Gail Cassidy, on behalf of Charles Bailey. John Hellier, John Lee, and Samuel Nixon, on behalf of Wilfred and Edmund Hellier. Wendy Lefebvre, on behalf of Albert Bowring, Stanley Lefebvre, and Gunner Benjamin Burnley. Cynthia Carson, on behalf of George McGrath. Greg Farley and Barbara Hill, on behalf of Stanley Farley. John Planner AM, on behalf of Engineers Australia. Ian Salisbury and family, on behalf of Henry Dalziel, VC. Julie Gosson, Charles Gamain, and Mathilde and Pierre Chochat, on behalf of the towns of Grandvilliers and Athey. Helen Cameron and Michelle Pickering, on behalf of Walter, Richard, and Henry Knock. Patricia Poole, Martin O'Brien, and Robert Barron, on behalf of Martin O'Brien. Kerry Ionadidis, on behalf of William Poland. Jenny and Kate Ryan and Lindy Edwards, on behalf of the Farrell family. Chloe Brown, Oscar Idale, and Ebony Turton from the New South Wales Premier Anzac Memorial Scholars. Joan Glastonbury, on behalf of William Drummond. Tonya Plum, on behalf of John Plum. Jens Wickenhagen, on behalf of John Farrell. Jenny Creamer and Jeff McGrath, on behalf of Jack McKiernan. Trooper Northcott, on behalf of the Royal Tank Regiment. Ben Jones, on behalf of the 16th Battalion, the Royal West Australian Regiment. Frank Taylor, on behalf of Kokoda Treks and Tours. The final tribute will be laid by Brendan Murtagh and Phoebe Roberts of the Voices of Birrelly Choir from Brisbane, Queensland. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our service here at the Australian Corp Memorial on the Western Front to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Hamel. Thank you.